Welcome to the Monday morning Business AM headline review right here on the Breakfast Connect show on Africa Business Radio. I am Rachel and I've got Bimbo in the studio. Hello, Bimbo.
Hi, Rachel.
All right. Now, a lot of weighty headlines, as always, of course, topping the Business AM front page. COVID-19 drive Nigerians into investment migration to Europe, Caribbean. And just below that, investors, analysts watch for surprises as CBN's NPC meets. Of course, all eyes on that decision of the MPC later today. And into the summary section of the Business AM paper, IEOM trains Shippers Council staff. Opportunities for digital banks. NNPC ramps up trading surplus. These you can find on pages 2, 9 and 26 of the Business AM newspaper. Well, there is more, and joining us this morning to explore the headlines is Mr. Philip Isakwa. He is the publisher, Business AM, Nigeria's fastest growing financial and business newspaper. Good morning, Mr. Philip.
Good morning.
Always a pleasure to have you for conversations. All right, now moving on to page 5 of the Business AM newspaper this morning, we see CBN's 200 billion fund to fast-track 300,000 homes across 36 states and the FCT. Now, this scheme is expected to create 1.5 million direct jobs and 1 million indirect jobs. Tell us more about this.
Okay, the Central Bank of Nigeria has been making some form of interventions on a lot of things. And they have made in agriculture, they have made in pharmaceutical, that's manufacturing, and this is a different one. They are making intervention in housing supply stock. Now, they say it's a 200 billion naira fund that they are creating in support of the federal government, because the federal government is actually pushing under its program in this current dispensation, the Economic Sustainability Program, ESP. So one aspect of it has to do with housing, boosting the number of houses in the country. And CBN is coming in to say, okay, we want to provide some fund, just like we are provided in other sectors. So 200 billion is being provided, and this is to create 300,000 new homes across the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Now, you will expect that once serious work is going on, construction of houses will be taking place across 36 states and Abuja. And when construction is taking place, jobs will be created because people will be employed on-site, both directly and indirectly. And this is what they are estimating, that this will provide some 1.5 million direct construction jobs and 1 million supply chain jobs. Now, the target for this is again, they look at the vulnerables in society. So they say 900,000 children and adults are likely to benefit from this. Now, the whole thing is about making funds available. So they are creating these funds for some what you call off-takers who will be participating in this program, and they will make these funds available to them. It's not free money. It's money that is being given out, but on concessionary interest rate basis, which means interest rate is not going to be that high. So you expect a boost to the housing sector as a result of this.
All right, now listeners can get more information on page 5 of the Business AM newspaper. Moving on to page 15 now, where we have this headline, the central conundrum of COVID-19 entrepreneurship. The report talks about how entrepreneurial ecosystem is responding to the pandemic. It talks about investors facing a dilemma of whether to view the crisis holistically or opportunistically. Now, what are some of the findings from this report, and what should entrepreneurs take away from it?
Again, there's a number of what you call analysis of what the COVID-19 has brought about. You are aware already that the world has changed as a result of COVID-19. We don't know whether the workplace is going to be the same again, after this pandemic is over. Now, one of the major challenges it has created, it is how it has challenged entrepreneurs, those who think broad and wide, about what's called businesses and job creation and in the realm of entrepreneurship. Now, this challenge that COVID has brought, has what the report is saying is that it has further taxed the entrepreneurs, because first, when there was no COVID, entrepreneurs had to think about, so where would they get funding? Even if they had ideas, they thought about where to get funding, and then they talk about the markets in terms of where, how to sell or distribute their products and services,
right.
And the rest. But COVID-19 has changed all that, You have to think deeper in terms of, since the world is no longer the way it used to be. So it's almost like a challenge to think outside the box. That's what the report. This is a report by INSEAD, by the way, our partner, from what they call the Business School for the World. They are partners, INSEAD. It's a special report. Listeners can look at page 15 because it's written by an associate professor of entrepreneurship and family enterprise at INSEAD. They can get more details from when they read the report.
Interesting. Now, before I let you go, let's move over to page 24 of the Business AM paper now. The headline there, deploying ABP to secure 5 million tons of rice in dry season farming. Now, this report talks about Nigeria being the leading producer of rice on the Africa continent and the 13th largest producer globally. But being the biggest producer of rice on the continent might be hard to believe by the average person on the street, considering that a bag of the finished commodity costs over 20,000 naira now, and that's depending on who you ask. So what are the takeaways from this story?
First takeaway is that the United States Department of Agriculture, we get this report from that department, USDA, regularly, and they have a way of providing data on agricultural development across the world. Now, one takeaway is that, it's good to hear this because the federal government had, over the past 3, 4, 5 years, paid a lot of attention to agriculture, particularly in the area of rice production. So if the USDA is saying that Nigeria is now produces 8 million metric tons of rice per year, and it's number one in Africa. It's kudos to all the efforts that have been made in that direction. But for the ordinary man on the street who is concerned about the price of rice, the one major takeaway is that there's still a lot to be done in this area, because when you produce a commodity, there are so many factors, that go into its pricing. You can produce so much, but if you still haven't produced more than is required, it's demand and supply. If you have not produced more than the demand, the price is still going to be affected. I think that's what is happening. So even though we are number one in Africa now, we still produce less than we require, less than we need, which means there's need for ramping up rice production. And then there's need to look at all the factors that go into costing, or what you call the eventual price that it is sold in the market. First, it might not just be because of demand and supply, situation, but it can also mean other factors. For instance, transportation. For instance, Kebbi is a place that produces a lot of rice that we know of, but getting the rice from Kebbi to the major areas where rice is consumed in the cities, you find that there is a lot of stress involved, and that could be responsible for prices being high.
Right. All right, we'll have to draw the curtain here, Mr. Philip. We'll get back to you on Friday for a review of developing stories this week and a preview of what to expect from next week's edition of Business AM. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, it's still the Breakfast Connect show on Africa Business Radio. In just a moment, I'll be taking you into the market trading from last week. Stay right there. I'll be right back.